We're going to use our signal space analysis techniques to now quantify the performance of binary phase shift keying. So we start with the mathematical representation for BPSK, or antipodal signaling. And in this case, again, I'll take the simple example of an ideal rectangular pulse. And in this case, a logical 1 is transmitted with the positive amplitude A during the bit interval, and at all other times it's 0. And the logical 0 is simply the same waveform, a rectangular pulse, but here with a negative amplitude. So when we want to use our signal space analysis, we're looking for a basis vector. And the basis vector, I mentioned we could use the rectangular pulse, or even if it was not a perfectly rectangular pulse, some other shape. It really doesn't change the results, doesn't change our generality at all. The important thing is we would take this shape, we would normalize it so that it has unit energy. And because of that, if we interpret the duration t and the amplitude a, in this case for the rectangular pulse, this example, then the coordinate would be a capital T times this rectangular pulse. But again, no loss in generality with the pulse shape. So, given this basis vector, now this rectangular form, in this case the coefficient for the logical 1 would be a times the square root of t, and for the logical 0 would be the negative. So same coefficient, but the negative of the coefficient. So again, just like in the case of on-off keying, this signal space is of unit dimension. There's only one basis vector, and it's sufficient to cover both bits in this binary system. So if we go and we plot this in signal space, well, the first attempt to get to a plot in signal space is to just represent it as a single line, one-dimensional space. There is one signal vector which goes to the right, another signal vector which goes to the left. They have equal lengths because they have equal energies. And so I see here this representation in signal space, or almost signal space. Remember, I said that signal space required that the parameterization for the energy be the energy per bit, so that we can do a fair comparison between different modulation formats. So now I'm going to try and find that average energy per bit so I can do this fair comparison. So the energy in a 1, I take the inner product of the signal with itself in this vector space, and I get a squared t. I do the same thing for S0. The only difference is a negative sign, but it's squared, so that goes up here. So they have the same energy. As I mentioned, they're equal energy. I could tell that by looking at the signal space because they have equal length. So if I look at the average energy per bit, half of this plus half of that, I just get a squared t. So now I'm going to change these coordinates because now I know the relationship between EB and a squared t. So now I have finally a representation for BPSK in the signal space. I know it's signal space because now the coordinates are a function of this energy per bit. We've done the correct normalization in order to get into signal space. And again, I can tell that they're equal length, equal energy signals. So intuitively, we know that these represents the means of the received signal, which will be corrupted by noise. And intuitively, we want to have these as far apart as we can, because the farther apart they are, the less perturbed they'll be by noise. And of course, again, that's why we do EB normalization, because it gives us a direct look at how does this separation, which tells us the robustness of our communication system, compare. But now this is also the way that we can compare BPSK with on-off keying. Because if you recall, when we did on-off keying, the separation was the square root of 2EB. So the square root is 1.4, whatever, times the square root, and now it's 2. So I'm bigger, I have a bigger separation. So just from the intuitiveness of the signal space, because BPSK allows me to separate my signals more, I'm going to be more robust against noise. And now what we're going to do is we're going to quantify how much more robust. But just off the bat, I know it's going to be better. So basically I say it's going to be better because the symbols are going to be easier to distinguish in the presence of the same amount of noise. The same amount of noise is going to bother this separation more than this separation. So again, I have this signal space representation, a map receiver or a maximum likelihood receiver. Again, because I have equal priors, they're the same thing. But in essence, I'm going to get a received signal. I'm going to take this received signal. I'm going to create a signal space representation for that received signal. And for instance, it could fall that the vector that I received in the signal space looks like this. Again, just like I did with on-off keying, I'm going to take the midpoint between these two symbols. I'm going to put up a threshold there and say if I'm to the right of this threshold with my received signal, I'm going to choose the logic 1. If I'm to the left of the threshold, I'm going to choose the logical 0. So in this case, because of the antipodal signaling, the midpoint is at the origin. So if the received signal is positive, I'm going to choose S1. If it's negative, I'm going to choose S0. Of course, this threshold is a very intuitive threshold. So again, in order to calculate the probability of error, we go back to our idea of two different types of error. I sent a 0. This is the probability I sent a 0. But here, I made a mistake because it was positive. And so I decided it was a 1 when it wasn't. So, and of course, the other type. So one type and the second type. And we're going to take the average because I'm going to assume that they have equal probability, so they each have probability of 1/2. Now, what does it mean when I say a 0 was sent? In antipodal signaling, when I say a 0 is sent, that means that the received signal is the sum of the negative amplitude plus a noise. And when a 1 was sent, it was the positive amplitude plus noise. So now I can continue with this derivation. If R was equal to the negative amplitude plus noise, I take that R, I put it on this side. So that means that the noise minus the amplitude here was greater than 0, or equivalently that N, the noise, was greater than the square root of EB. And in this case, the noise was less than a negative value. And of course, the noise could be positive or negative. So by the symmetry, these two 1/2s, this probability is equal to this probability by the symmetry of the distribution of the Gaussian. And so it just comes out to the probability that N is greater than the square root of EB. Again, this is that probability integral, which I will use the Q function to write in a more compact form. So now I have a numerical representation, a quantitative assessment of what the bit error rate will be using BPSK. So to compare now, head-to-head, on-off keying and binary phase shift keying, here's the representation in signal space. We can see that the length of the vector here might be longer than either of those two, but that doesn't mean that it has better performance. In fact, the opposite. If we look here at the quantification of the performance, we can see a factor of 2 difference in the numerator. So that we can interpret as a 3 dB difference, because I would need twice as much energy in my signal to get the same performance for the same noise for on-off keying as BPSK. So I can look at that graphically if I plot the two curves. If I take the distance between these two, we'll see that it's just 3 dB, because I need more EB over N0 to get the same performance for on-off keying versus BPSK. I might also just mention that when I see two curves for bit error rate, the curve that's closest to the origin is the one with the best performance. So again, I'm going to end this discussion with reference to optical communications. What happens when we do BPSK and optical communication is that we use phase modulation. So the laser is always on. Remember, before the laser was off, the laser was on for on-off keying. Here the laser is running continuously, and we have to flip the phase of the light when I have a logical 1 or a logical 0. So we're going to use a phase modulator, an optical phase modulator, to do that. Now the detection process is completely different for BPSK than on-off keying. I can no longer use a single photodiode. The single photodiode was easy with on-off keying because I'm just detecting energy. Is there energy present or not? But here there's always energy present. It's the phase I have to figure out about. So direct detection does not work. Single photodiode is not sufficient. So we go to something we call coherent detection in optical communications, and that's a subsystem that's designed specifically to retrieve the phase information on the received light. I just want to point out some differences in vocabulary. Coherent detection in optics is something very specific, and in other fields it may be something else, so be careful how you use the vocabulary.